6 times F1 were caught out by crazy weather. With Formula 1 heading to the Nürburgring in October, yes, you heard that right, we're expecting some pretty horrific weather when it comes to the race weekend. And this got me thinking, have there been moments in history where the weather really has affected F1 in a pretty crazy way? One of the stories includes a driver literally passing out from searingly hot conditions. Here are 6 times F1 were caught out by ridiculous weather. Oh, hold on, I see you there. Not subscribed to the channel. Trust me, you won't regret pressing that gorgeous red button. Go on, I dare you. Help us move towards our goal of 1 million subscribers. Fuji 2007. If you've been a fan of Formula 1 for quite some time, you'll know that the Japanese Grand Prix is usually held at the Suzuka circuit. However, in 2007, F1 decided to return to the Fuji Speedway for the first time in 30 years. And what a race it was. It rained. And I'm not talking a little sprinkling or even heavy rain. It was torrential. There is not a chance F1 would run under these conditions if we saw them today, but my god did it provide an awesome battle between Kubica and Massa. If you haven't seen this battle, look it up on YouTube. The amount of pushing and shoving they did to each other over 6th place was incredible to watch, and probably would have handed them both 30 seconds worth of penalties in today's Formula 1. Silverstone Snow. If there was one man who would be prepared for Nürburgring to snow, it would be the driver returning to the sport next year, Fernando Alonso. On a test at Silverstone in late February 2005, Fernando was met with some rather strange conditions. Heavy snow. There are some brilliant images of the Renault team still practicing pit stops even though the conditions were brutally icy and cold. As a side note, there was also some snow during the 2003 Barcelona testing. I thought you'd like to know that because, well, I love snow. Do you? Qualifying cancelled. There are 4 examples within this segment, but I'm putting it under one umbrella. Excuse the pun. Japan 2004, a 160km/h storm under the name Typhoon Maon caused for qualifying to be moved to Sunday morning, where Schumacher took pole, the win and the championship. Any excuse for me to mention Schumi, definitely a fanboy. Japan 2010, this one was a bit more entertaining for the fans as race control gave it time to decide whether to cancel a washed out session. So during the break, some of the F1 teams made miniature rafts to sail down the pit lane. Australia 2013. Q1 was only able to be completed in the rain-soaked, light-fading Saturday session, and so on Sunday, Q2 and Q3 was contested on a perfectly sunny day where Vettel took pole. USA 2015 was more like 2010 Japan, where the teams and drivers were stuck in the pit lane waiting for a decision. Daniel Ricciardo and Daniel Kvyat performed the waltz outside their garage, and Force India, obviously Racing Point now, made a bobsled. Even though quali was moved to Sunday, Q3 couldn't be completed, so the Q2 results were taken. Bahrain sandstorm. Forget rain, we now move on to a different type of challenge that F1 could only really see in Bahrain. Sand. Raikkonen, Trulli and Kubica were all able to complete one installation lap, but apart from that, the entire testing day was cancelled. It was a pretty big blow for the 3 teams testing there, as this was crucial mileage that was written off. We know what dry, intermediate and wet tyres would look like. I wonder what shape sand tyres would take. 1984 Dallas Grand Prix. If you've never heard of this race before, then get ready for one of the craziest stories in F1 history. The 3.9km circuit in Dallas took an absolute beating from temperatures over 40 degrees, and this caused chaos when it came to race day. The track was described as disgustingly bad by Keke Rosberg, as chunks were coming off through the drivers circulating the public roads. Emergency repairs were made before the race, but because of the heat, the quick-drying cement failed to settle in time. Not only this, but the drivers were suffering too. Driver Piercarlo Ginzani had a bucket of cold water thrown over him during a pit stop, and when Nigel Mansell's Lotus failed within sight of the finish, he sensationally attempted to push his car over the line. He sadly failed and passed out in the blazing heat. 18 of the 26 drivers retired that day, 14 of them after hitting the wall. The shortest F1 race ever. The final race of 1991 at Adelaide was abandoned after just 24 minutes due to the horrific weather conditions that followed the start of the race. Huge amounts of crashes and spins followed, and eventually Ayrton Senna was famously caught going round the track waving his arm calling for the race to be stopped. Nigel Mansell, when asked about the race, said everything was okay, other than it was a complete joke. There was debris all over the place. The drivers were not happy. There you have it, a few standout examples throughout F1 history of when weather caught the sport by surprise. We wouldn't have included all the wet races in history, but are there any that you'd have included in this list? Let us know in the comment section below. Oh, and subscribe. Definitely subscribe.